What's up, guys? Welcome back to Tidal Gardens. Still in Las Vegas. And one of my Patreon subscribers, Harkins Aquatics, he has been taking me around the entire time that I'm here. So obviously, thank you very much, Chris Harkins. And one of the places that he's taking me to is to see Andrew's tank. Andrew, tell me a little bit about what we've got going on here. What size tank did you have? And let's just walk through all the different aspects of it.
This is a little over 2-year-old 600-gallon display. It's an 8-foot long by 4 feet deep, 30-inch tall aquarium. I have a 480-gallon sump. It's an 8x4 by 2 foot, so it's actually the same size as the tank, just 6 inches shorter. Total volume is about 1,000 gallons. It's a mixed reef with lots of fish and coral in it. my collection from the years, I guess, right?
A lot of fish and coral. So what kind of struck me immediately was when you said that this tank really is only about 2 years old, and everything in here was started from frags. And that's kind of gave me a frame of reference because I have a system about this size where I started everything from frags, and it does not look anything like this. So I'm trying to piece apart what was the key to getting this level of growth. So I guess where I would start is what do you do in terms of lighting, first of all? Let's just start from the top and work our way down. So
I'm more of a person that I like to put the sun over my aquariums. I like to put too much, and then if it's too much, I can always move corals down. I like to be able to grow corals on the floor. You know what I mean? I have Euophilia thriving almost in my sand bed, and I attribute that to T5. The T5 lighting is always what I've gone to. This tank, I didn't want to put 32 T5 bulbs over, so I ended up going a hybrid system. The first line is a Reef Bright, then I have 2 T5 bulbs, and then in the center I have the ATI Stratons, which are really just the primary light, and then I have 2 more T5 bulbs and then a Reef Bright on the end.
Guys, if you don't know what ATI Stratons are, it's probably because they're extremely difficult to acquire. It's one of those lights that you really have to do a lot of legwork to hunt down, but it is basically a German company LED fixture. Yeah,
it's a German radon, is what I tell people.
A German radon.
Yeah. So yeah, too much light. I like too much light. If I have problems, I can always move corals down. I want to have the demand for the high light SPS corals at the top. That way when they grow into colonies, I'm still going to get tons of penetration in the lower parts of the colony and stuff like that.
And I noticed that just messing with the angles kind of helps, because that's one thing that I always kind of struggled with. Even though you have nice coverage, sometimes you're not getting the good beam angle to illuminate on some of the odd undersides that kind of develop as colonies
the hard
grow.
Shadows. Yeah.
Right. Especially again with LEDs versus T5 or halide.
Yeah. And so these are my first LEDs, man. The ATI Stratons, and I'm actually really happy with them. Especially because it looks like if you look at this tank, you wouldn't even know it's an LED tank. That's what I really like about it.
Yeah, it's very blanketed. It doesn't have a lot of glitter lines or anything like that.
Yeah, so that's why I blanket my tank with the sun, and then past that, I just use the cheap salt reef crystals. I have tons and tons and tons of flows. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 MP60s. And then I have 3 of those gyres. No, I have more than 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I have 7 MP60s and 3 of the gyre 4Ks.
That's a whole bunch.
That's a whole bunch of flow. I like a lot of flow. Again, I like good current or good flow all the way at the bottom of my aquarium.
At the bottoms and even down into little corners
and
crevices.
Down in the corners and crevices, I'm getting flow. It's almost too much flow, but with the light being able to grow anywhere in my aquarium, I have all the options in the world for placements, right?
Yeah, I think for a long time, just flow has been drastically underrated.
Yes.
We tend to go lower on flow than probably what we should. And this is kind of giving me some ideas on just what a lot of flow could look like.
What a flow is, yeah. And corals can handle a lot of flow, but they can't handle direct flow.
Not direct flow. And the other thing that makes a huge difference is it's just the depth of the aquarium.
Yeah.
I mean, typically any aquarium over 24 inches deep becomes more of a maintenance nightmare.
Yeah.
But there's some huge benefits to having a deeper aquarium. You can do a lot more with flow.
Rip. With all these gyres, I mean, you can look at the water level here, bro, and it's insane. You would say that's not safe for corals or not safe for fish, but
if it's not hitting it directly,
if it's not hitting directly, they're loving it. They're loving it. They're loving that upward pull of the water passing through them too.
Yeah, and you're using these are the ice cap version of the
Yeah, I
gyres.
just added those in the past 2 weeks. I've added all of them, and it's just because I wanted to try them out.
Yeah,
You know?
they seem to be doing really well.
I added one on my friend's tank, and he had really good luck. I think you saw that.
Yeah.
I was a big fan of trying them, and then I saw how good the results were, so I tried them myself, basically.
Nice, nice.
I'm kind of sold on the gyres right now. I like the way that they have that larger line right now, you know, and it's like I said, it's that upward flow that you can't necessarily get. I had an MP60 there, and it was moving a lot of water, but
It might suck in air or something like that.
it was sucking in air, number one, and then number two, what it was doing is it was just like a ton of flow right there. With the gyres, I just feel like maybe it's moving the same amount of water, but the way that it moves it is just a little bit more designed to be at the top of the aquarium, I think. You know.
I see. Okay.
The other way I seen someone run it the other day is they ran it sideways. They ran it sideways like this in a corner.
Yes, I have seen that before as well.
And so it gave me an idea too about putting some in the back, you know, and having water come this way, you know.
Yeah, you could do that. And I also see like a closed loop, right?
The closed loop with something is actually, like I said, one of my favorite parts of my aquariums. I have a 1-inch closed loop with a Vectra L2, and it's plumbed directly into the tank. And I have a T coming off that closed loop going outside my house. So I can open and close 2 valves, and I can drain 100 gallons out of this tank in like 5-10 minutes, you know.
Like really quick water changes.
Really quick water change, effortless water change. And then on top of that, I have my mixing station in the garage set up with hoses running through the attic, so that way I can replenish the water. Again, no effort. I set it up so that way if I'm ever sick, or if I'm ever hurt, or if I'm ever in a position where I couldn't physically lift buckets and I couldn't physically...
It also makes it more likely to do the maintenance.
Well, I was gonna say,
easier.
so it's funny, I say that I did that because I was sick, because I had surgery a year ago, and I was like, oh, this is the best thing I ever did, right? But it started with the idea of if I make it as easy as possible, I might actually do it. Right?
Yeah.
If it's a pain in the butt, I'm not gonna do it, right? I try to make it as simple as possible for me, in the sense of almost clicking a button, right? I could do it from a wheelchair, I could do it from crutches, I could do it, you know, and it's gonna get done. It's so easy, it's gonna get done, you know, and that was the idea behind that originally. And I can tell you, man, I've done 150 to 200 gallon water changes consistently because I was able to.
How often do you normally do water changes?
In the beginning, where I was trying to chase growth and chase like the perfect aquarium, I was doing once a week, believe it or not.
Once a week, what seems to be about 25 to 30% water changes?
Like 50, well, it's 1,000. I was doing about 150 to 180. So I said about 15 to 20%.
15 to 20%.
Once a week is what I was doing.
Once a week.
And I will say that when I was doing that, I think the trace elements and everything else was just better.
That's something that we might be struggling with ourselves, because we, for a little while there, weren't doing our water changes as often. And when we were taking a look at some testing that we were getting back, I don't want to chase numbers necessarily, but we were noticing like certain things just bottoming it out. And so I definitely wanted to get off of 0. And I'm guessing that the additional water changes just reduce the risk of bottoming out.
The great equalizer. That's why, for me, water changes are the answer to everything, right? You know, no matter if it's good stuff needing to go back in or bad stuff needing to come out, right? It's the end all be all. So even the advanced tanks, doesn't matter how old you are, like I still truly believe in huge, reliable, you know, consistent water changes, you know, if especially preventative, you know what I mean? Staying ahead of it, right?
Yeah.
I'm talking about your trace elements.
Because a lot of times, like the problems that we would see manifest in corals, it's something that happens acutely, and then you see like the symptoms of it for like months later. And even if you fixed those things, sometimes it takes even longer than for that coral colony to recover. Yeah. And so I guess like staying with the whole water change regimen, you have fixed that acute issue, and then it's going to allow stuff to finally get to recover.
And then even like I said, taking stuff out, we put our hands in the aquarium and we're putting stuff in these tanks that we're not even necessarily thinking about, or stuff that we're not even testing for. So by doing large volume water changes, we're actually pulling out things that foreign bodies that we don't even necessarily know are there, you know? Yeah,
for sure. What do we have filtration-wise working on this tank?
So starting from the very beginning, I have like a handmade or custom-made little RODI setup that I have. Like
on
I said,
source water?
On my source water, I'm very, very crazy about my source water here in Vegas. We have very high TDS source water. So yeah, it's almost 500 TDS coming out the faucet here. So our ROs, you know, even at the 99% rejection rate, you're still letting through, you know, 10 TDS on a good day, right? Or from a brand new setup. So
other than water changes,
Yeah.
what else do you have going on?
I have a calcium reactor. I have a Geo's Reef. I really like the Geo's Reef because they're really simple. They're just like PVC pipes and an acrylic thing, and you can almost just, if you need to repair something, you can almost go find what you need to at Lowe's. But I've never had problems with them. I just really like the Geos. They're very simple design and work very good. I have the carbon doser running the CO2 to it. So past that, just calcium reactor, water changes.
Calcium reactor, water change, no other additives, no two-part, no nothing, no
Nothing.
calc.
I will be honest with you, as soon as I started doing the 2-part, I put a doser on and I started supplementing a little bit of this, a little bit of that, I started having problems.
Interesting.
It started kicking stuff out of whack for me. Maybe because I was relying on the Trident and I wasn't doing manual testing every day and really, really dialing those numbers and trying to figure it out. I was just like going off the Trident and like watching stuff come out of whack sometimes, you know? And
interesting.
I was putting cal and alk, and I think I was getting mag deficiencies, or I was putting too much calcium. I couldn't even tell you what was going on. But
the calcium reactor is like super gentle as far as that stuff goes.
the calcium reactor is like a one and done, and it's just like you chase alk, right?
Yeah.
It's just very simple, you know. And then if something comes out of whack, you can supplement that thing, you know. But when I was trying to do calcium reactor, kalkwasser, calcium, alkaline, you know what I mean? You're doing all these things, and
there's something to be said for like a more simple setup.
Yeah. It's not like mushrooms and whatever. Like I have some cool corals in here, but yeah, I prefer to keep it simple. Anyways, yeah, I'm crazy about my source water. I make sure to get rid of silicates. I make sure to get rid of chlorines. I make sure to get rid of all that stuff. Reef crystals, water in, and then past that, filtration on the actual tank. All I have is a skimmer and a 180-gallon Refugium.
Okay.
I'm a big believer in Refugiums.
Interesting. Okay.
I had a Refugium set up on this tank like day 0, basically.
And what do you attribute the benefit of the Refugium with? Because I've heard a very robust argument for and against Refugiums. My biggest gripe about Refugiums, since apparently you're a promoter of the technique, my biggest gripe is that if you have like some sort of an algae issue, a pest issue, or whatever issue, it will persist in the Refugium forever, even if you've gotten it out of your main system.
So, okay, and then my addition to that is, yes, it's got to grow somewhere, right? It's been in your tank, it's in your system, right? Just like algae. Algae growing in a tank is a sign of a healthy aquarium. Like, you know, you're growing stuff, right? Doesn't mean it has to grow on the display. It can grow down here, right? And be an unsightly part of your aquarium that's doing its job. You know, that stuff that you're saying that just never goes away, it's just because it's in your aquarium, man. If you didn't have the Refugium, it would probably be in your display.
And us, like, you know, being like some veteran hobbyists, like realistically, completely eliminating pests is
next to impossible.
It is very, very challenging.
And then as soon as you add one thing, it doesn't matter who it's from, it doesn't matter what you add, you're gonna add something, bro. Whether it be Aptasia, whether it be some type of new algae, you know, and whether it be some type
There's some doozies that people aren't aware of, that there can be some serious problems just on algae.
Yeah, exactly. There, Dictiome. Yeah. That's the one you were talking about earlier. That leafy one. I'm pretty sure it's Dick something. Yeah, see, because honestly, I have zero algae in here. Zero. Like, there's like some little, you know, this is it right here. That little bit of green right there. You see that patch on that rock right there?
Yeah.
That's about as that's the only stuff that the urchins like don't remove.
Yeah, that's what I originally thought was the leafy stuff, but on closer examination, it's like this looks like mossier, and it's not.
Yeah,
it's not
I mean,
stuff.
That's what I'm really big on. You know, not driving myself crazy or the like stuff like that. You know, the algae and the Aptasias and stuff like that, because it's gonna come in. It's gonna come in. You know.
Yeah.
The copper band is pretty much my favorite fish for a reason, you know.
Mine too.
He eats acans, and I feel like I'm making sacrifices to the gods. You know, is he deserves them. Is truthfully how I feel. You know, it's the copper band is the greatest fish for a reason, right? Yeah. You know, like I have Aptasia in my system, and you can't see an Aptasia in my entire tank.
That's the way it goes. If you have one copper band, you may have Aptasia. You probably have Aptasia.
You probably have Aptasia.
Especially in a larger tank, you're very likely to. But that fish will make it all go away. It'll make it perfectly
And he doesn't solve it. It's not 100% cured. It's not cured.
But it's definitely not a problem.
You will never see it. You'll never see it. It'll never be a problem.
Right.
You look in your Refugium, you're going to see your pests, right? You're going to see some Aptasia in the Refugium probably, but they're not going to be in your display.
Okay, so outside of what we discussed there, do you think that the Refugium like provides some sort of other aspects of stability?
So for me, what I always tell people with the Refugium is it does a couple things. Number one is it gives it's like a safe haven for bugs as far as pods, amphipods, copepods, whatever, okay? It gives them a spot where no fish is going into their breeding ground and never letting them, like stamping out the fires of the breeding grounds, right?
Okay.
You know, once a wrasse finds a breeding ground of pods, they're gonna pretty much decimate every single one of them, right?
Yeah.
The Refugium is an untouched safe haven for those bugs, which means you're going to be able to keep mandarins, you're going to be able to keep wrasses, you're going to be able to keep, you know what I mean? All that stuff's just going to be able to replenish in your system, which probably happens anyways, but the Refugium's like...
It's an unfettered sanctuary for them.
Number two is what it does for me is I feel like it's a safety net in a sense that if you have an ammonia bomb bombs turn into nitrate phosphate bombs, right? And then they just never really go anywhere if you don't have enough corals, you're not having enough nitrogen cycle fast enough, et cetera, et cetera. You having excess nitrogen phosphate in your tank is just gonna make that algae just bloom and bloom and bloom and bloom. Unsafe levels are just gonna make the Refugium just blow up. Whereas if you don't have a Refugium, it's gotta go somewhere, right? You're gonna have increased algae growth, you're gonna have
some corals browning
pissed
out.
off. You're gonna have the Refugium kind of dials it back to normal levels almost at all times, right? Because the way that I reef is I put too much, right? Too much light, too much food, too much fish, too much coral. So with the Refugium, I feel like it's a safety net. You know,
Gotcha.
I feel like it keeps those nitrate and phosphate, which are astronomical numbers in my aquariums, to manageable levels in my aquariums, right?
Okay. So then what are the stages after the Refugium?
Yeah, so we have the skimmer, we have the Refugium. That's basically it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, UV. You're doing some...
Actually, I do have a UV, but I don't attribute that to cleanliness at all for the aquarium. I just attribute it to fish sickness.
Fish.
Yes, basically directly correlated with attacking the life cycles of like ick. You know what I mean? Because two of their life cycles are waterborne, so that's directly what the UV's for. You know, just to make sure my fish are trying to keep my fish healthy.
Yeah. So on the topic of fish, now that we're on there, we had spoken earlier about pros and cons of quarantining versus just dropping them in and wishing for the best.
Drop and pray in, or whatever they call it, plop and drop.
Pop and drop.
Yeah.
And so I definitely don't have the answer when it comes to that. I think that the people that do quarantine very, very well have great success. I'm definitely not there yet with that.
Yeah.
And from what I understand, you just put stuff in.
Well, yeah, I mean, I had like a little 30-gallon all-in-one, and I've tried it several times. I've only had one good experience with quarantining, but generally I had bad experiences, just bad experiences. And it's, whether it be a sick fish and you want to pull him out and quarantine him, or if it's just a fish from the fish store, you know, I just, the numbers of successful fish that you buy from the fish store and actually live are very low anyways. I just, nowadays, I just kind of plop and drop, feed heavy, hope for the best. You know, the UV, I feel like, is addressing majority of like the ick issues. You know, obviously, if it's a more sick than ick, you probably shouldn't have bought it in the first place. You should have visually observed and visually seen that fish didn't have protozoans crawling all over it, right? You know what I mean? You can see that physically a lot of times, you know, but past that, you know, I think ick is just like a normal thing that fish get, you know. You just have to keep them fed, keep them healthy.
Especially with tanks, there's always some like low level presence of it.
And exactly. So I don't care. I've had people say, "Oh, my system's ick free, blah blah." You add a fish, and then there's your ick right there. You know, it's just it's. I don't stress about that, but I wish I could properly quarantine, but I don't like the idea of quarantining just from what I've seen too. It's
just philosophically, you don't like the super sterile.
I don't like the super sterile environments. I don't like I ask any of my friends or anyone I know that's in the hobby and we talk about it. I said, do you like going to the hospital? Can you imagine if the lights never came on in the hospital? Can you imagine if your bed was like pipe and et cetera, man? Like it's just not a normal routine of a fish, right? A normal routine of a fish is swimming,
adding additional stress, which could perpetuate other issues.
Yeah. But it's preventing them from doing their normal things sometimes, I feel like, right? Which is adding more stress.
I would be terrified of dropping in the next fish into something like this. But clearly you've had success putting stuff in and not having it do a complete wipeout.
Oh, yeah. No, I've never had anything like that, ever. A wipeout, you know? The only thing that I've had weird was like fishes that just don't gain weight. But, you know, and he might have had that prior to me adding the fish or whatever, you know, and it's just something I couldn't see or whatever. But that's really the only thing that I have to worry about, I would say, for the fish, is that they just don't gain weight sometimes, you know. It's just something I'll probably pay attention to more. I'm not a fish guy, to be honest with you. I'm more of the coral guy. So the fish, I always say, just get lucky enough to live in here, you know. And
well, the corals are doing extremely, extremely well. And this being a mixed reef, do you think that you gravitate more towards like the SPS or the LPS?
No, neither. I can't choose. I mean, you ask me a different day, it's gonna be a different answer. What got me into the hobby originally was frog spawn. I walked into a fish store and I walked up and I saw frog spawn. I thought it was the coolest thing I ever seen. I said, this is real. You can really have this stuff. I can take this thing home. It grows. This is from another planet. Like, we're joking right now, right? This is so cool. And so that's what got me into it. I just dove in with both hands and just, that was it. You know, I dove in, went to the deep end and just never came back, basically, you know, and just keep going further out.
So how long, I guess like backing up a little bit here, how long have you been in the hobby?
I've been in the hobby about 8 years.
8 years?
Yeah. And
okay.
Yeah, I started with a 20-gallon. It was a little used tank that my father-in-law had in his shed. I said I wanted to do an aquarium after seeing frog spawn. He's like, hey, I got a tank, I'll bring it over. And I razor bladed the thing and set it up. And next thing you know, I had a little 20-gallon, some clowns, a lawnmower blenny, an anemone, a frog spawn. And I was like, this is great. This is, you know, and then slowly, or about a month later, it was an 80-gallon. You know how it goes. And then a year later, it was a 300-gallon, and then it was this one. So this is really my 4th aquarium. I've never had an aquarium before my 20-gallon salt. Never had an aquarium. Never had a fresh.
Never had freshwater.
No, I had a snake when I was younger, but no, never had a freshwater. Never had a tank before. Just saw coral and was like, whoa. And then that changed my trajectory of my life. Absolutely. I sometimes wonder if I never discovered coral, like if I would have been like a different person, because like now
snake guy, who knows?
Yeah, I would say no. It's like it's a lifestyle. It's not a hobby, right? I'm sure you can relate to that.
Yeah, just a little bit.
It's not even on the grand scale of things anymore, too, because now that I'm a little bit older, like I appreciate different things about it. But now I come over and I just spend like 30 seconds with my aquarium and just have the stress just wiped away from me sometimes, you know?
That's a good feeling, because like I typically look at my tanks and I only see problems.
Yeah.
I'm a problem solver. So it's great that you can like see, you can actually enjoy your home aquarium. What a novel idea.
Right, exactly. It is a novel idea. Not, oh, I have to clean the glass. Oh, I have to clean the skimmer. Oh, I have to top off my reactor. Oh, my CO2 bottle's out.
It's like, well, what's wrong with that fish's eye?
Yeah.
That sort of thing.
Yeah, exactly. It's, you know, it's a love-hate sometimes. You know, leaving town is always a chore.
It's scary.
You know, I set it up so that way I could live my life. You know, the way that I did the water changes, the automation, everything about this tank, I can step away from it.
And you have like a network of friends that could help out in a pinch, that sort of thing.
Basically, I've actually had to put friends on FaceTime and like, bro, I need you to crawl underneath there. I need you to find that. My calcium feed reactor pump clogged one time while I was out of town. I'm like, dude, I need you to get down there. I'm like, I need you to like blow through this hose to see if it's clogged. When he could have just replaced the line or whatever, but it was. Yeah,
oh man.
Yeah, so I've definitely called in that favor once or twice before, but you know, it's. You're scared sometimes, right? Depending on what it is, you know. Do
you have any, I guess, like regrets in the design of this? Are there things that you would have done differently, or things like that you love the idea of that just didn't work out, or any kind of future plans?
Honestly, no. I really like my tank as it is. The only thing I wish I could do is just have somebody clean my glass for me. That's really like that's the biggest chore for me, is cleaning my glass. As silly as
that's my favorite chore.
And
I love it.
I have a magnetic scraper as of like 2 weeks, and it's been a life changer. You know, I'm not having to go scuba diving to clean my glass, but I really thought out things. I sat here and planned this tank out for up to almost 6 months.
Wow.
I found out I was going to get this tank, and I seriously thought about which side of the room it's going to go on. I drew out every square inch of how much is going to be left over on this side, how much is going to be off the wall.
It is accessible. That's super important.
It's very accessible. All the panels open, all the sides open, everything comes out, everything, you know. I made it, you know, I'm a one-man operation, right? So I do everything myself. I have to make it easy on myself. So No, I really don't think I would have done much else to maybe mount my UV sterilizer so it's prettier. You know, it was an afterthought. The UV sterilizer was an afterthought.
Sure.
You know?
Oh, it always happens that way sometimes.
Yeah. You know, actually, there's one thing I wish I would have done. I know what it is now. Is I wish I would have put an exhaust vent out the top of the canopy. I want to put a temperature probe on the apex that kicks it on and off depending on the canopy temperature.
Yeah.
So it can pull fresh air from my house into the canopy and the hot air out.
And just get it all out of here.
Yes. Instead of trying to circulate and cool it, I just want to pull the hot air out.
Should be possible.
Exactly, but it's
theoretically
cutting and this
over
and
your
that.
tank.
Yeah,
you know,
yeah,
what could go wrong?
It's like afterthought, right? Believe it or not, I've already done it once or twice. Tarp it and cut it and little stuff. But that's the thing I would like to do because I'm always battling heat. We're in the cold, bro. We're in the cold, and I'm 81.2 right now. You know, that's about as cold as my tank gets these days.
For me, that's like so super toasty.
Yeah. And so I'll ride 84, 85 in the summertime on a hot day, and I can't cool things properly. I hit 86.1. The first couple times I got stressed. I was ready for a massive die-off event. Nothing.
Thanks again so much for showing us your tank. It's looking amazing. It's certainly one of the bigger tanks that we've taken a look at so far. And like I said, the growth that you've gotten in just a relatively short period of time, 2 years, is really astounding. So very good job. It's awesome.
Yeah, I take pride in this tank. It's definitely like my baby, right? You know, I said this was my 10-year tank. So we're 20% through. So give me another 8. We'll see what the finished product looks like, right? It's never a finished product, right? But
no.
That's
fantastic though. It's for a 2-year tank. This is really, really nice.
Thank you.
So definitely good job on that.
Thank you.